And parts of the London Underground were hit with a power outage this afternoon, causing widespread travel disruption. A Transport for London spokesperson said everything was shut down because of a national grid issue, but added that they were working to get services back up and running.
Could a nationwide blackout ever happen in the UK? After Portugal and Spain were struck with power outages, you might be wondering, could this ever happen here? Just imagine this: no phone signal, no trains, no cash machines, and no CCTV. Pretty much everything we rely on a daily basis would be thrown into chaos. There's a few different things that could cause a blackout, such as extreme weather like floods and hurricanes, even solar storms blasting particles at Earth. Oh, and there's also cyber attacks as well. Sounds intense, but don't panic, this is not hugely likely. Because in 2019, a UK power company released the blackout report where they put the odds of a total shutdown at 1 in 200 over 5 years. So that's just 0.5%. So hopefully we won't have to get the candles and board games out anytime soon.
A power outage has caused chaos across the tram network in Greater Manchester. The major incident has seen all Metrolink services across the city centre suspended. The Ashton line is also fully shut. The incident on Tuesday, April 29th, was caused by a loss of power and damage to a pantograph which connects the trams to the overhead power lines. Transport for Greater Manchester are working on the problem as a matter of urgency, they said. They warned that repairs might be carried out well into Tuesday afternoon, and it could affect journeys home on Tuesday afternoon and evening. The B network said that services from the south of the city are terminating in Furswood or Old Trafford, with trams from the north ending at Victoria. Eccles services will terminate at Media City UK, and Trafford Park services end at Wharfside. The B network say they will keep passengers updated throughout the day. Follow for more.
Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of the great millstone who do rule and teach well. Peace and blessings as always. Salutations, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatam, to the sincere believers that hopefully elect out there listening and learning. So it's the brother Azariah, back once more with another lesson through the Spirit. And as you saw in these first few opening clips, there's power outages happening in the UK, and they're saying that this is because of this net zero agenda that they're pushing. So now what you have is the metro system out there in the UK today actually went out for some time, and what was it, April the 28th, we saw that there was a nationwide power outage in Spain, Portugal, parts of Germany, parts of France, you know, some EU nations over there. So it's very convenient timing that all these things are happening now. And remember, your boy Klaus Schwab told you in the beginning of the GR, you know, the Great Reset back in 2020, that we must prepare for a comprehensive cyber attack that when the grid goes out, he said, will be as a small disturbance compared to the CV-19. You see? So these devils, this is what they've been planning for years. They're messing with the grid. Things have been acting real weird. Wi-Fi has been acting weird. The internet has been kind of shoddy. You know, infrastructure systems are not as stable as they once were. And once again, like I said, it's very convenient timing that all these things are happening at the start of the new year. You see? All these agendas are being rolled out. There's a warp speed going on. You got banks closing down like there's no tomorrow, which really all this stuff is leading to the MOTB. All of what they're doing is to get you to receive the beast mark, right? So let's go here. So this article right here, Ed Miliband dealt another blow as Britain could face blackouts due to net zero targets. Gary Smith, GMB General Secretary, cautioned that Labour's commitment to transition to clean energy by 2030 is far-fetched and could result in power outages. Now, this is in the UK right now, but even over here in America, remember a few months ago, I believe the beginning of the year, When Canada, when America placed the sanctions on Canada, I don't believe it's ongoing right now because it's on a pause or something like that. But Canada was like, look, the PM of Canada, or some Edomite politician, he was like, look, I will cut the power off to America, and I'll be happy to do so. This was a few months ago, right? So these elites have already made it known. Pretty much, they've already told you that there's going to be a massive grid blackout coming. You've heard it from the likes of Klaus Schwab. You've heard it come out of the WEF. You've heard it come out of the American government, the Canadian government. You see what I'm saying? These things have been put out there over the years. So it's only inevitable that this will eventually happen. And of course, this goes into the plagues that the Lord brought on ancient Egypt. In Mizraim, okay, which that's the correct name for ancient Egypt. But when you read in Exodus the 10th chapter, it goes into the plague of darkness that the Lord brought upon that whole land. Darkness that even was felt. That darkness was so deep that a man didn't even move out of his place for 3 days. Okay, it was so dark you couldn't even see your hand in your face. You couldn't light a fire and see it. That's the kind of darkness that the Lord brought. When you read, let's go to 2nd Ezra 15 chapter. Because you always have new brothers and sisters coming in. So we got to go over these things consistently. 2nd Ezra chapter 15. And let's see here. 2nd Ezra 15, and we'll start at verse 11. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues. Now, modern day spiritual Egypt is referring to America, Babylon the Great. All right, really is a whole this modern day beast system, which makes up NATO and the EU, but mainly America, Babylon the Great. Because this is where the Israelites were taken in captivity. And this is where we're still in captivity to this day. You see, so this new spiritual Egypt, the Lord is going to smite with plagues, right? Let's read on. As before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh shall bring upon it. See, so the Lord said that he would smite Egypt again with plagues as before. Now, when you reference what happened in ancient Egypt, before the plagues, ancient Egypt was a superpower in the ancient world. After the plagues, Egypt never really fully recovered or made it back to its superpower status. And that was all from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai on the account of the Israelites. So likewise, as it was then, it's going to be the same thing now. All right, just as America is a superpower in this day, after the Lord is done with this place, it's going to be ruins, okay? Nothing, look, man, this place is going to be leveled out with fire. See? The scriptures tell you that, look, this place, America, Babylon the Great, is not going to be inhabited anymore. This is going to be an example to all nations as to what happens when you live ungodly. This is what's coming to America, Babylon the Great. But these plagues are coming down. You have flooding, you have hail, you have tornadoes, you have earthquakes, you have wildfires, you see? And eventually you're going to have a plague of darkness that's going to envelop the land where all the power goes out. Went into this the other day in a lesson, but these high-ranking officials in government, they were given satellite phones some years ago to, in case of a catastrophic event. Why would you need satellite phones? You would only need satellite phones in the occasion that all other main lines of communication are down. You see, which means that these people know that eventually there will be a blackout. You see, and this directly coincides with the plague of darkness that was brought upon ancient Egypt. And in the event of a blackout in today's time, it's really going to end society. There's going to be no law and order. It's going to be confusion all about the place, And in the event that people are going to start to take advantage of the anarchy, it's going to be a very lawless time. It's going to be much death, much chaos. You know, there's going to be a lot going on out here. And the answer to that is going to be, well, now we must implement order so people can now be safe in the name of peace and safety, right? That's how Esau is going to come in. So we have to know these things and know how to maneuver in these times, man, because listen, we're really coming down to the wire to where these devils are really making things happen. All right, the time for them talking is pretty much done. They're not talking anymore. Now they're implementing the agenda. They're implementing the plan, and we're seeing it in real time. You see, we'll hold this and go back to the article. Right, so in UK, they're like, look, this net zero agenda is really unrealistic, and it's going to lead to power outages, which we see happening. Ed Miliband's plans for a greener Britain have been dealt another blow after the government was told to dismiss the, quote, false prophets of climate fundamentalism and reconsider its net zero ambitions. Gary Smith, GMB General Secretary, cautioned in this Slovakia in the Times that Labour's commitment to transition to clean energy by 2030 is far-fetched and could result in power outages similar to those experienced in Spain recently. And remember when they came out with the after report on what happened in Spain and Portugal, they were saying that, oh, it's because of the net zero. When at first they didn't have an explanation as to why the power went out. There were multiple explanations as to why the power went out. They said it's a grid outage. They said that it was a cyber attack. You know, you even had some heads out there saying that it was deliberately done, which we know that's the case. But hey, Esau, he's a devil. He's gonna put out, you know, plausible deniability. You see, to where he can, you know, finesse his way into getting the people to believe his narrative. You see, that's what the devil always do. But they know what's coming. All right. He also slammed proposals to prohibit future North Sea exploration licenses, arguing it would, quote, accelerate the decline of domestic oil and gas production and increase our dependency on gas imports. Mr. Smith contends that Spain's catastrophic electricity grid collapse should serve as a massive wake-up call for ministers. He wrote, I'd like to thank our government at all levels was asking the critical question, what if this happens to us? Because it could have, and see, the thing is that it will. All right, if you're already having, as we saw in that first clip, outages within the UK metro subway system, all right, that's a small part of the infrastructure, but you have to know that in these summer months, you know what I'm saying, when demand for energy is going to be much higher, all right, these devils could easily say, oh yeah, well, you know, people are overloading the grid because they're using so much energy, this and that, and it just goes out. But in reality, they're going to come out with the narrative and say that it's a cyber attack and that, you know, there's nothing to see here. You know, we all need to be more green, okay? That's going to be the solution, all right? So you're going to have to, you know, get on a smart meter, all right? You're going to have to, you know, implement these things within the home, you know what I'm saying? So the government is going to be directly inside of your house, and eventually they want to be under your skin, all right? That's where all this is really going, all right? This right here ties directly into it. All these bank closures you have. Check this out. TD Bank closing 38 branches, including 5 in New Jersey. You see this? So we know what we're coming into. See, we're in the process of them establishing this NWO, in which everything is going to be tracked, traced, monitored, okay? In which they're going to know everything. They're going to have full control. If you want food, you're going to have to go directly to them. If you want energy, you're going to have to go directly to them. If you want funds, if you want to buy and sell, you're going to have to go directly to these devils, man. All right, but they're going to have to induce you into accepting this system by way of chaos and leaving people so vulnerable to where they feel as though they have no other choice but to opt into this system, which is why they're increasing the cost of living, which is why they're taking away opportunities, jobs, the ability for people to, pretty much self-sustain themselves. Okay, as Klaus Schwab said, you will own nothing and you will be happy. So these are the wiles that the devil is going into to get people to trust in him, all right, to have no other choice, no other option. And see, these banks are all closing down like there's no tomorrow, because in this new world, it's not going to be a need to have physical banks. It's not going to be a need to walk into a bank location and withdraw money. Why is this? Because very soon you're not going to have a bank teller, okay? Because AI and robotics is replacing all these industries, man. So, eventually, as we always go into, with the MOTB, which is the micro C-hip, all right, they're going to implant this thing under your skin. And see, you're going to be tied to a carbon footprint, which is going to be tied to a social credit score. All right, so your social credit score is going to be tied to how much carbon that you use a day. And if you use too much carbon, or if you speak against the government, or if you even think, all right, because they're going to be inside your head too. So if you think against them, then they're going to cut you off. All right, total control, man. This is what it's all going to. So this is why all these banks are closing down. All right, because there's going to be no need to have a brick and mortar bank location when everybody's on the grid. All right, when Esau has control of everything. So he's going to know what to allocate and who's in good standing with the government based on how much carbon that you use. All right. It's happening in Europe as well, right? Santander to close almost a quarter of UK branches. Are you seeing this? A quarter. Santander has announced it is set to close 95 branches across the UK, putting 750 jobs at risk. The High Street Bank said its customers were increasingly shifting to banking online. You see, and that's what they've been getting people to opt into, more online and less doing things in person. Because again, in this new world, which you're already seeing it. Like when you go to the movies now, they used to have the concession stands where you could buy your hot dogs, buy your candy, your popcorn, right? It used to be people there. Now what you do is you go into the movies and there's a screen that you order on. You know what I'm saying? You place your order and then you go pick it up. The people make the food. See, even with that, very soon it's going to be robots making the food, man. All right, so they're gradually phasing out the need for human beings to do these jobs, and they're implementing AI and robotics, okay? So we see it happening in all facets of society, man. So Esau, he's deliberately crashing everything, and the ultimate crash and reset is going to come when he turns off the power. You see? And when the lights come back on, you're not going to be able to access the internet without a digital ID. You're not going to be able to buy and sell without the MOTB. All right, because all this illegal immigrant crisis that they've been talking about over the years, now they're going to need to know who's who and who's doing what. It's all going to come in the name of peace and safety, but it's really a devious device from the devil. You see? So all these European banks are closing down. All right. So we see what's going on here, man. All right. We're not ignorant to Satan's devices. Okay, let's go to Matthew 24. Matthew 24, we'll get 21. Matthew 24 and 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. Now, Yahushua was speaking about the destruction of 70 AD when the Romans came in and sacked Jerusalem and removed us from out of our land. Which to this day we haven't seen again, which was all biblical prophecy, right? But the same thing is going to happen now, all right? The same thing is going to happen now. This is going to be a time of great tribulation, such as was not seen from the beginning of the world to this time, all right? And likewise shall not be seen again. Verse 22, and except Those days should be shortened. There should be no flesh be saved for the elect's sake. Those days should be shortened. And are not the days being shortened? A day now feels like, minutes. A week feels like hours, man. Like these days just be flying by. That's the Lord shortening the days for the elect's sake, because the days are very evil. And this devil, he's, coming down with his great wrath. All right. Let's go to Daniel chapter 12. Because we're going to have to get some spiritual intervention, some spiritual power, and able to get through these times. Daniel 12, check out the header. The time of the end. Daniel 12:1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. Is that not echoing what we just read in Matthew 24 and 21? You see, so this is how you understand the scriptures, line upon line, precept upon precept. And this is Old Testament, okay? So Yahweh Shai, he wasn't coming with nothing different than the law and the prophets, okay? He came to reiterate and make the law and the prophets magnified, to make the law greater, all right? Understanding through the Spirit, you see? And there shall be a time of trouble, such as was since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. All right, so a time of great tribulation, Jeremiah 30:7, another precept. Okay, the time of what? Jacob's trouble. Matter of fact, let's start up a little bit. Let's start at verse 3. For lo, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Israel and Judah, saith the Lord, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And these are the words that the Lord spake concerning Israel and concerning Judah. For thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace. So you have the Pope, right? This new Pope, he from Chicago, you know what I'm saying? Which, all this is theater, you know what I'm saying? Because he's a damn devil himself, all right? All of them are devils, all right? Weirdos, man, freaks, okay? But they put this guy out there now. He's praying for peace in the so-called Middle East, you know what I'm saying? He's praying for peace on earth, which that's not going to happen. Ultimately, because it's not the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, okay? When you read, what is that, Joel, the 3rd chapter, it says to wake up the mighty men, prepare for war. All right. The scriptures say in Deuteronomy that what the Lord is a man of war. You see, so the Lord is the one that wants war. Yahweh Bashem Oshai wants war upon the earth. So these nations, they understand that if world war breaks out, well, when it does, should I say that's the end of their kingdom and the beginning of ours, you see. So they're trying to keep things peaceable, you know what I'm saying? This is why you see Trump, he's, one moment he's full steam ahead with the terrorists, and now he's trying to negotiate. He's reached a negotiation with China. He'll put this law in place and then he'll repeal it. You know what I'm saying? That's these devils trying to fight with prophecy, man, but it's not going to work. At the end of the day, they're going to do what the Lord put on their spirit to do. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, this is the time that we in a very, as it says in 2 Timothy, perilous times shall come in the last days. Right? Verse 5, for thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not peace. Ask ye now, and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness. Verse 7, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Race wars, civil wars, famine, okay, grid outage, power outage, people being confused, people being afraid, people being paranoid. All right, you gonna have gangs going around looking for what they can spoil. It's gonna be women getting raped. It's gonna be a lot of death out here. We're coming to a very anarchic, if that's a word, a society of anarchy. Okay, no law and order. Everything is gonna be out of control. It's gonna be the Wild West. You see, so people gonna take matters into their own hands and do what they have to do to survive. As a matter of fact, let's go there. Let's go to 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter. All right, because these things are really coming on the earth as scourges for amendment. You know what I'm saying, to address these people's wickedness, man. All right, because one thing about it, these people was living proud in their wickedness for the longest time, and they never thought that the day would come where they would have to face adversity, where they would have to face their judgment. This is why you see so many people right now catching hell, especially amongst these Edomites. Okay, they catching pure hell, losing their 401k, losing their retirement, losing their job, losing their house, getting kicked out. You know what I'm saying? It's real bad out here for these Edomites. 2nd Ezra 16 and 18. The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Now pay attention right here, verse 21. Behold, victuals shall be so good, cheap upon earth, which right now food is relatively cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can still go out and get a can of beans for $1, $2. You know what I'm saying? You can still buy a loaf of bread for $1 or $2. Milk is affordable. All right. But as it says in 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter, you know what I'm saying, where it speaks about a measure of barley for a penny, which goes into a day's wages. You know what I'm saying? People are giving a large amount of money for a small amount of food. And it's going to get worse, because once hyperinflation kicks in, that's when the dollar is really done. All right, that's when they're going to black things out, and they're going to call for this new system to come in. So a time of pure hell is coming upon the earth. You see? But people think that they're good right now because food is cheap. All right? Victuals goes into food and provisions, you know what I'm saying, things that you can use to sustain your life. Okay? They that, Slakia, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, right? And even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. And that's what's happening. Okay, right now people are, Jake especially, the weather is breaking, you know what I'm saying, it's getting, it's warm outside now. People think about going on vacation, they think about taking trips, they think about turning up. But meanwhile, they so occupied in that. Look at what's going on overseas. Look at what's going on within America, man. Things are out of control. But this is what they not paying attention to, you know what I'm saying? They're just focused on the cares of this life. They not tuning in to prophecy. They're not listening to the words of the prophets. But that's going to be to their own detriment, right? Verse 22, for many of them that dwell upon earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So you see, for the wicked, it's not going to be no escape. It's not going to be no remedy. It's either going to be you're going to die by starving to death, or you're going to die by getting one put in your head, okay, or getting your head chopped off, or you're going to die overseas in World War III, all right, or you're going to die in the streets of America, you know what I'm saying, trying to defend what you got or take from somebody else. This is going to be the wild scenarios that's going to occur in these last days, and it's going to be rampant out here. It's going to be happening regularly, and you're already starting to see people get desperate. Crime is through the roof right now. You know what I'm saying? So imagine how much more heightened that the danger is going to be once there's a power outage, once there's a grid blackout. You see? These are the times that we coming into. All right? Verse 23, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. You know what I'm saying? And these things are coming from Yahweh Bashmil Shai, okay, whom the Lord calls God, and Jesus the Christ. You see, this is the judgment of the Lord coming down upon the earth, man. But guess what? The kicker is he's going to use his sword, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, to bring this upon the earth. You see? That's the trick bag of it, man, because when these things go down, people going to look at it like, oh, man, this is crazy. This is wild. But they not even going to understand where this is coming from, what's happening, which is going to add to these people's anxiety. It's going to add to their fear, and ultimately is if they make it through the tribulations, then they're going to take the mark. You see? So the Lord is lining these people up, lining everything up to where those that he's aligned or those that he's allotted to be destroyed, they're gonna fall they're gonna fall into their own trap, if you will. Okay, they're gonna receive the fruits of their own wickedness. All right, it's about to be crazy out here, you know. But yeah, these are the things to come on the earth. Okay, blackouts, food shortages, you know, people not having access to their money. You know, it's gonna be mass panic. People gonna be angry. And as Klaus Schwab said again, we must prepare for a more angrier world. Okay, why would he say that? Well, he can say that because he's going to be a part of making that angry world, all right, in which people are already, you know, talking about civil war rising up because they see that their rights are being taken away. They see that the Constitution is being infringed upon every single day. So once the food is gone, that's when people are going to really rise up, because that's the only reason why people haven't done anything yet is because they can still eat. Food is a comfort. All right. If you ain't got nothing else, at least you can eat and your belly can be full. See, but when you have a growling stomach, all right, you ain't got no job, you ain't got no form of entertainment no more, you have nothing left to fall back on. That's when people going to lose it all. They're going to be like, yo, F this. You know what I'm saying? We about to do what we got to do. You see, and that's why a lot of these politicians, they're getting out the way now. Okay, they're going down into the bunkers, they're fleeing overseas, selling their property, selling all their real estate, because they know that they're not going to want to be nowhere around once it goes down, and it's coming upon the earth very shortly. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close out right here. Lord willing, through the Spirit, this lesson was edifying. In closing, call Allah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Racha Kadash. And until next time, Lord willing, Shalom to the elect, Kom Yasha'Allah, Wa Ba Ba. On to the next one, Shalom.